Here's a question that you didn't ask to be asked. Producer Dan warned you about the number 1 seed Nuggets, but you didn't listen.
All right, before we get to the actual question, let's talk about this for a moment. So, I know some people on this show. I don't know others. Because the show's bi-coastal. We're in New York, the show's in LA.
Uh-oh, you're about to say something.
I obviously know DeMonze, he's my son, works on the show. I know Diora, she's my daughter, works on the show. I know Gabe, because Gabe worked at FS1 right when I was hired, and Gabe and I developed a real friendship.
Aww.
I know Matt Ford from the show. I've actually hung out with Matt briefly in Vegas. I know Victor, who even though he seemed to have some technical difficulties today, Victor, I met him in person in New York. I see him on camera in studio. I felt I got to know Kara a bit because I misidentified her job title and felt terribly about it. I don't know Daniel that well. However, I did, despite not knowing him that well, develop a deep-seated, boiling anger towards him throughout these playoffs. Because on our, let me count, 10-person group chat, Daniel found it. Oh, I also know Nick Wright. I think he plays basketball with DeMonte. Daniel found it appropriate after each game to send either videos from the game saying "La Butterfingers," trolling texts saying "Keep hating," Denver will still welcome everyone with open arms, sending eyeball emojis after other games, sending video of him pretending
the video's
sweeping.
Pretty funny.
Well, I didn't see any of that until this morning.
I just saw it just now.
And I missed important texts because after about the third unprompted, unrequested text from Daniel, I just muted the thread.
No, you muted the thread.
Yeah.
After we were talking during the game and you just decided you didn't want to hear us anymore.
Yeah, guys, if I want to be trolled by people, I'll check my Twitter mentions, not my work text thread. There's ways, if you would like to send me your trolly Nuggets thoughts at Get Nick Wright, not the What's Right Show text thread. So I muted the whole thing. And I know there's probably a question of like, is Nick serious or joking right now? I'm serious. So serious and so angry about it that I was like, who is this guy? That I Googled him and found Daniel graduated from USC
insane.
A year ago. Found his Twitter. Found this website that I sent to Gabe of Daniel from college doing his sports show. Just trolling me the whole time. Because he's a Nuggets fan. I don't need that shit in my life. I'm gambling on these games. I'm emotionally invested in these games. And Daniel, who's younger than DeMonte, is in my mentions, sending me, not even in my mentions, in my actual phone, sending me texts that say "La Butterfingers." Like the worst of Twitter trolls. And now I got to see him in the control room holding a broom, sweeping back and forth. It's unbelievable.
Wearing the same sweatshirt from the video too, exactly.
Coach LeBron at USC. All right, I got to tell you something.
He brought that broom.
Everybody's smiling and seems to be having a good time. I really, really hope, because Gabe, the big boss, is there today. I really, really hope Daniel's awesome at his job. Irreplaceable level awesome.
Why? Are you trying to get him fired?
I'm saying, I'm sure there's other Blue Duck projects that would love his contributions.
Wow.
I don't know if Beatles Show needs a Nuggets troll on there. I'm not sure. Listen, let this be a lesson. Victor now gets it. Victor has looked down and has put his hand through his hair. He's like, oh, I'm not sure if Nick's doing, if this is a bit or not. I'll just let it just sit in the room. Is this a bit or not?
Everyone looks a little scared.
Yeah.
There.
I mean, what the? I'm trying to watch basketball, give analysis, put myself out there, and gamble on these games. And I got to get a video of LeBron turning the ball over. It says Butterfingers.
You can't take the heat.
I can take the heat.
No, you obviously cannot take the heat.
I can take the heat from people that I signed up to receive the heat from.
Well, your friends are your biggest, critics.
Yeah, agreed. My friends.
Wow.
Agreed.
Wow.
Now, finish the Nuggets question.
Insane.
It's not insane.
That's insane.
It's. I'm telling you, Diora, remember when I did that talk for your friends at school? Your friends?
Those aren't my friends.
Okay, your
sorry everyone.
Your
That's so bad.
Fellow students, remember that?
Yeah.
I tried to be nice and give folks. This actually wasn't even your school. It's a different talk I gave. I don't want to put this on your friends. But sometimes when I give talks to these kids, they're like, hey, can we keep in touch, blah, blah, blah. I give them my number. One person that I've done that with has decided that's just a direct line to troll me for my takes. Like, to just be like, oh, I have Nick's phone number now. I can just troll him for his takes. Inappropriate. Now, am I saying producer
Are you sure
Daniel?
It's not a kid from my school?
Am I saying producer Daniel, I'm putting him in the same bucket as them? Bucket adjacent. All right, go ahead.
What's the high school student?
What's the Nuggets? What's the Nuggets question here?
Okay, so as you said today, every bill becomes due. So, do you owe the Nuggets, Jokić, and most of all, recently promoted co-EP Daniel any apologies?
Okay. No.
It's no, and no.
So here's the thing. I only demanded of Nikola Jokić what we have always demanded of players that turn into great players, which is earn it before you are anointed. And if we go through the timeline, which we can, of my Jokić opinions in 2020, when he started to get the superstar buzz, I said he was not ready for the challenge at hand in the conference finals. I was one of the only people in the world that picked the Nuggets to beat the Clippers that year. Picked them. Suck with them down 3-1. And I said, yeah, but Anthony Davis and LeBron's going to be too much. And I was correct. The next year, when he was the runaway MVP, I raised the question, guys, are we making the Russell Westbrook mistake of a few years prior of giving the MVP to a guy because he has gaudy offensive numbers when we know that they are not yet a winning team? I made the case that Chris Paul, despite worse numbers, deserved league MVP. Then they did happen to meet in the playoffs, and Chris Paul, I think, beat him in 5 or swept him. I don't even remember. It's pretty damn great. Felt a little vindicated. The next year, no one denied that Jokić was excellent. I said at the time he was one of the 6 or 7 best players in the league. But now they were talking about giving him his second MVP, while everyone acknowledged the team could win nothing. Now, that was because of injuries. But I said, hey, guys, are we going to care about precedent and standard of what the NBA MVP history has been? And if we are just going to give it to the guy who is carrying an inferior supporting cast, why not give it to Luka? And then Luka made the conference finals, which up to that point was the high watermark of Jokic's career, and Jokić got swept in round one. This year, I said repeatedly, had the previous MVPs not been misallocated, in my opinion, this was the year that Jokić deserved it. But because he had just won 2 straight, and we'd had won 3 straight MVP in the last 65 years of the NBA, I didn't want to break that for a guy who had yet to break through. That's it. Did Jokić impress me this postseason? Of course. Is he this close to having a legitimate claim that he is the best player in the world? Yes. But it is not unfair or unreasonable to say you have to show it. You have to prove it. And in the NBA, that is done in the postseason. It has never been done in the regular season. Ever. And while Jokić, prior to this year, had been statistically a very good postseason performer, prior to this year, the worst postseason series of his career by a mile was his one conference finals. Does this change things? Of course it does. He was just in a conference finals against LeBron, against Anthony Davis, and was dominant. But this idea that, and this is where, and now it'll get a little hairy, Kendrick Perkins brought up the race factor of this and did it kind of haphazardly and awkwardly, and everyone just killed him for it. But this is where there is an interesting comp. The one other guy that I can remember that we placed these type of regular season accolades at his feet without him ever going on this type of playoff run was Steve Nash. And that was a mistake. So it was odd and a little uncomfortable that we were doing it. Never goes in this order. Ever. But now Jokić has a dominant start to finish, well, not quite finished, but as far as he could have gone up to this point, playoff run under his belt, the unbelievable regular seasons, and his biggest liability, defense, which is defense, he more than held up in this series. Post game 1. Those are the benchmarks to being one of the greatest players ever. And he's checking them all off. But will I apologize for not wanting to let him skip steps? I will not. Does he now have an unimpeachable claim that he's one of the top 3 players in the world? Yes. Is he one series away from having an incredibly strong claim that he's the best player in the world? Yes. Does he maybe already have a decent claim that he's the best player in the world? Yes. But I am not going to rewrite history on how we have always treated anyone that is trying to become the guy in the NBA. I'm just not going to do it. What's the follow-up for him?
So you have to root for the Nuggets to win it all now, right?
Why would I have to root for the Nuggets to win it all?
Who else would you root
What?
for?
Well, we'll talk about the Heat in a moment.
Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.